but it had a little banner in the corner that said, all new, whatever that meant.
Right.
And that meant nothing to anybody. So you had a lot of disgruntled customers who didn't understand where the knife was, or Jamie Lee, or the shape, or any of it. It is incredibly gratifying that all this time later, it's got a fan base of great people, and found its own at last. That feels good.
And the original idea, where did that come from? Was that John, Deborah, you?
I believe Deborah was really the driving force, and she had this notion of Halloween meets the computer age, or some kind of one-sentence pitch like that. And she sort of got that rolling. John had been looking for an opportunity to work with Nigel Neal, the great writer from England. And so he came up with a script. And we went from there. Nigel's name should have been on it, but he didn't like what we did to it and took his name off. John had a hand in the writing. He never put his name on it. So although the credit reads written by me, it's pretty inaccurate. I did a lot of rewriting, but you know, Nigel, I'd say about 60% of that script is Nigel.
Let me talk to the actors who are on stage. How did this, Nancy? How did this movie come to you?
Well, can you all hear me without the mic? Can you hear me without the mic?
No.
Too bad. It's too early in the morning. So, as Tommy said, it was 1982, and I was happy to have a part. I was always glad to work, create a character, but I have to say, I was fairly distracted by the fact that I was expecting my first baby. So that event sort of overshadowed all the other memories that I have about that year. But I did like the fact that it wound up being a lot of voiceover work for me, which I thought was kind of funny. That, there was just this voice, this constant voice, either just in Tommy Atkins' head or actually on the phone, but haranguing him.
Yeah.
And other than that, I based my character on family members that I probably shouldn't mention.
It's like the Annie character from Halloween grows up too fast and has a bad marriage.
And Stacey, how did you become involved with the movie?
Wow, I had a makeup artist friend who was already a man named Ron Walters, who I had worked with, who was already signed on to the film, who was telling me about this script, and he said, they cannot find somebody to play the lead. Why don't you come in and read? And I kept saying, no. He said, look, they're really down to the wire. You should just go in. And I read the script, and I loved this character because she was spunky. She had a lot of energy, and she fought for what she wanted, and I loved that. So I went in to read, and I literally was getting the call. The phone was ringing as I walked in the door on my way, into my house at the time, which never happened, saying you got the part. Usually you wait. And I think a day or two later, we were shooting. It was that down to the wire. And of course, the love scene was one of the first scenes we did.
Yeah.
Right? It's always a great way to meet someone. Hi, how are you? Let's get naked. But anyway, that was that.
Yeah.
A Tom, you had already established. Yeah. Tom, you'd already obviously had a relationship with John Carpenter, having worked on Fog and Escape from New York at that point. And
Yeah,
so was the part written for you?
What?
Was the part written for you?
Was it what for me?
The part in Halloween 3.
Oh, I don't think it was written for me, but was happy to be offered the part and to do the film. And like Stacey said, we were having meetings in offices, and I went over with Tommy and Deborah and would sit in on the young women they would bring in for that role. And I remember when Stacey finally came in, I think there were 3 girls that day, and she came in, as soon as she left the room, everybody pretty much, yeah, okay, there she is, that's her. And then and I think it was the first day of shooting, or damn near, that they said, let's do this bedroom scene. And I always thought, where do you want me to sleep? Dr. Chalice was one of the dumbest I ever heard in my life. We had a great time shooting the film, running around up in Lolita, or whatever the hell the little town was, up in Northern California. It was great. I had a wonderful time on the film.
Dick, how about your involvement?
Well, it started on Escape from New York, where I met John and Deborah, and then Deborah invited me on Halloween 2, and I just transitioned and was forced onto Tommy and Dean and the rest of them, and I'm grateful for it, so thank you.
Deborah took me aside at some point and said, I want you to meet Dick. I think you might. And he didn't have his mustache at the time, so he was somehow his mustache goes the other way. I think you had more dash without it. And you certainly looked sinister. You were just right for a dark suit, which is what I call all those guys.
Yeah.
And you were the lead dark suit. Actually, you played him at least twice that I know about. After he got killed once, he reappeared. We had you lined up for the stuntman, but it was like, listen, let's put this guy on camera. And you did a great job.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk with a couple of the people that are behind the scenes. Alan, you talked about your relationship on Friday night. You talked about your relationship with John Carpenter and how you guys work together. Give us a little bit of that, and especially in conjunction with this movie and how you scored it.
Sure. So, again, my first film score ever in this lifetime was Escape from New York. So I walked into something I didn't know what I was doing, but I had my intuition and my skill set from being a rock and roll dude and working Star Trek sound effects. And so, sat down with John in my dining room. We started cranking it out. Tommy came by, Nick came by, all visiting while we were doing this stuff. But sort of the lineage is Escape from New York. Then John goes off and does The Thing. He turns to me and says, Alan, you're going to do Halloween 2. I'm too busy. So he left. Now we get to the moment John comes back to the same old scene again after his experience doing The Thing, and knowing that he's having it off to these guys, and he can first, for this time, be a composer, not a director, not a producer, kind of relax. We sit down and we played we played the latest Tangerine Dream record at the time that was, into electronic music, stuff like that. And I remember this quote from John. He says, Alan, this is going to be really easy. Let's just rip ourselves off. Which was basically saying, everything we do on Escape from New York, let's just keep doing it. Just keep doing whatever we're doing. I'm loving what we got going here. So the first cue we did was the Cherries and Pumpkins cue, and in this case, I was on the sequencer dialing up some sort of sequence, which is the repeating thing, and it was Halloween-ish, but it was its own thing, which he really loved, and that was the spark for everything else that trailed off. And I think for me, as a lot of these people come back and say it's one of the greatest scores we did was the score to Halloween 3. And I think that was just because we had freedom. We could do whatever we wanted, and we were just having a blast. It was just it's in my great memory book of things working with John Carpenter that we did that.
Yeah, it's a great score. Let's talk about that goddamn jingle.
Tommy, he's the guy.
The inspiration is Tommy. Deborah calls me up and says, we have to do this commercial. And, we were done with the score, I don't remember. But anyhow, it's Tommy's brainchild, and here's the instructions. I don't want any lawsuits. I want you to use the melody from London Bridges Falling Down. That way, nobody's going to touch us. And that's the seed. Then, Mr. Wallace, take it away.
Well, actually, we experimented with a few jingles. As long as it was public domain, we were in.
Yeah.
And somebody the other day said, why don't you do a sequel to the jingle. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, of course. Anything that's public domain. But no, Alan and I had a nice afternoon, real productive. He set me up with keyboards, and we just kept double tracking and triple tracking and doing undercranked vocals so that it sounds like the Chipmunks. And I just kept laying down tracks and harmonizing with myself. And there you go. I do like that sequel thing, though. We may do another thing just for that.
And that's your voice on the commercial saying, "Hey kids, it's time."
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Do it for us.
yeah, do the Friday. I can't remember what was the name. Oh, the big giveaway.
I didn't know that was you.
And isn't Jamie Lee Curtis an operator, and her voice is like she's the one in Santa Mira who does the curfew?
That's apocryphal. I
Oh, it
asked
is?
Amy at the last show if she did that. She said she didn't remember doing that. So she was around. She was our friend, and she would come in and kind of just hang around.
She did the voiceover on Escape from New York.
Beats me.
Oh, okay. But sounds exactly like her. So.
But yeah, that voiceover thing happened because I was in the cutting room as of Assault on Precinct 13, and then of course Halloween in the Fog. And when you're temping up stuff, it's just usually the editor or the director, whoever's around, will do a temporary voice for these things. And so I do all those things, but our budget was $1.98, so in the end it was like, that's good enough, let's just go with that. Thought it was temp.
And Dean, your involvement in Halloween 3, you shot the first one, you shot the second one, so it was inevitable that you were going to shoot Season of the Witch?
I was never involved with the 3. Oh, big shocker for you. No, I just trying to rattle it.
Just trying to rattle. Don't do that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, when I've been, of course, working with John, we did the thing, and then he said, we're going to do Halloween 3, and I'm thinking, oh, that's rather bold, what Michael's going to kill now. And then I read it and found out, like the audience, I kept flipping the pages. Where's Michael? But no, I actually was quite pleased with the idea that it was going to be something different because I didn't have to worry about box office and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun. It was different, unique kind of horror, you might say, and the fact that we were going to, create this this mythology, this small town, and everything that went with it, made it really a lot of fun. And I had certain technical challenges that I love doing. The big giant rock that had to glow. We developed this special mirror and Scotch light process to make it do something that I don't think anybody else had done yet. So it was quite a bit of fun to do that, and working with Dan O'Hurley, who was, of course, a great character, and I really sort of anchored the whole thing. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I have to say that humbly that having on the one side John and Deborah supporting me, and John supported me the way he took the attitude that it was my picture, just the way he did with his own movies, which is like first-time director gets that kind of autonomy. That's unheard of. And as a result, I was able to just do what John did, which was just operate, without looking over your shoulder constantly at the committee standing over there, which was phenomenal. But the other half of that was that I had my buddies as crew, and at the helm of that crew was Dean. And good God, are you kidding me? The luckiest first-time director on the planet.
And to sort of address what Tommy was saying, I really, and we got spoiled, I guess, because with Halloween, were just given free range to make this movie. There was nobody looking over our shoulders, as Tommy says. You know, with most of John's movies, we had autonomy. And I never experienced a studio who would come and say, whoa, wait a second, that's too dark, or how come you didn't put the camera there, or whatever, that a lot of, there's always somebody who tries to, you know, put their finger in the pie and make sure you realize that the reason they're there is because, you know, they're really creative and so forth. But we got spoiled. Never had to answer to anybody. Later, you know, when that changed for John and for myself and all, it became kind of like, what?
Oh, well, this is Hollywood.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, this is Hollywood. Oh, I forgot. So, you know, I think that one of the reasons that, you know, the films came out as they have was that we were able to just go off and do whatever we wanted and be creative, and, you know, and I was delighted when I heard that Tommy was going to do the film, because of course we worked together for his capacities, but I knew his sensibilities and everything. I thought, what a perfect choice, and we'll just continue on with nobody telling us what to do.
If you guys have questions, there are 2 microphones set up on either side here, over here, and over there. If you have a question, come on up and line up that way, so you're not blocking anybody. You mentioned Daniel Hurley, team. Can we just kind of like, if anybody has like a Daniel Hurley story that they would like to share, what it was like working with him, because the guy was amazing. He's great in the movie. He's so good. What do you guys have any memories working with him?
It's not a funny story with a great punchline or anything, but Dan, shortly after the movie, invited me over to dinner, and it was so not Hollywood. There was no music blasting at his house. There were just people having conversations. It was very Irish and very much about people being together. And it impressed me so much because at that point, it was de rigueur to have music playing at your parties, and to have simple silence in people's voices was just a revelation. Wow, this is a real gentleman, and he was that kind of person. He just loved people, loved being around people, and not to mention the fact that he was a marvelous professional.
I like Tommy, I don't have any particular stories, just my general memory of him was that he was an incredibly sweet, nice man, which was completely the opposite of the character he played. So when the cameras were on, he was this nasty, cold human being, and he was just completely the opposite of that. He was very warm and a complete gentleman, just very classy man. That's what I remember.
You know, I think that's one of the treats that we get, or privileges, is that very often in the movie, all you get to see is the one aspect of the character, you know, that he's evil or cold or conniving or whatever. And we get to see both sides. We watch the character, you know, when the camera's rolling, and then when it's cut, you know, someone will finish their joke that they started just before. So we really get a nice variety of relationship with people, actors especially.
His mom in that movie, I'm telling you, I could rewind that and watch it all day long. I just love it. He's so evil and so good.
That's a thing that I'm proudest of about Halloween 3, and perhaps the key to why it finally found its popularity is it's really about Halloween. It's about the season in a way that the franchise is not. Dan embodied his delivery of that monologue embodied that spirit.
Okay, what question? There's a mic. It's a very small mic. There you go.
Who came up with the designs for the masks used in the movie?
two of them already existed at the Don Post studio, and we collaborated on the design for the jack-o'-lantern, the pumpkin. It was the only one specifically created for Halloween 3. The others, they kind of repainted and gussied them up a little bit. The original masks glowed in the dark, by the way.
Now, they were actually merchandise at one point. Didn't Post sell those?
Yeah,
Did it have the silver shamrock thing on the back?
The ones that they merchandised, I think it did.
Okay, because that would have freaked me out if I bought one.
But I honestly can't remember whether, I'm pretty sure they went out with those plastic things on them.
Okay, next.
This is more for my own personal curiosity. A lot of people that complain that there's no tie-in with the first two films and 3. I always wondered if this idea was on the table. During the montage of all the trick-or-treaters where each city is listed, Phoenix, Los Angeles, was it ever considered to use Haddonfield, Illinois?
Hadn't thought about it. The fact is that the original Halloween is within Halloween 3, so it's not true that it wasn't mentioned or thought of. It's right there on TV, for all to see, and especially to screw up Chalice, Dr. Chalice, strapped to that chair. That was all the way back to the railroad track and Sweet Sue and being tied up and the trains coming. And that was Halloween, the original Halloween on TV. So at least we got it squeezed in.
And I always thought that the opening credits for Halloween 3 were kind of like, it's a pumpkin, it's a jack-o'-lantern at the beginning of the movie. And it seemed to me like, okay, we're moving forward. Like this is a futuristic, computerized jack-o'-lantern as opposed to the first two films, which are just like an actual pumpkin. Yeah. Was that the intent?
Absolutely, that was Deborah's brainchild. Halloween meets the computer age, and we embodied that in the titles. Purely intentional, yes.
I also love the fact that it kind of seems like a little homage to me when he gets loose and throws the skull mask onto the camera, the security camera that you only see through the two eye holes. And that always seemed to me like, it's like the first 5 minutes of Halloween.
Yeah. There's a little story around that. Dean Cundey taught me something the day we shot that. I was a novice director, and we're just playing around on set, and without having to do it, I just demonstrated how I wanted it to be. I just gave it a little flip from all the way across the room, and it went, and I heard Dean sort of breathing next to me go, oh shit. And what he meant was that on a movie set like that, that means we won't get this until about take 45.
Okay, we got time for a couple more questions. Come on up.
Well, I agree with Nick. It's really underrated. When I saw it, I didn't care there was no Michael Myers. I think it's a really good movie. I'm glad it's getting recognized. But I want to know, since it's so different, does anybody know where the idea of the script came from? It's a really good script.
I think we kind of covered that a little bit earlier. A British writer, Nigel Neal, came up with some of the core ideas, and then it was a collaboration between Tommy and John and Deborah.
Did he give you an idea where he got the ideas from, or anything?
Nigel was a wonderful writer. He had all kinds of twisted ideas, a very grim outlook on the human condition. And one reason we rewrote it extensively was, oh my God, the original script was so bleak and so dark that it just wasn't, we didn't quite have the spirit of playfulness that we thought it needed for a popular American horror movie.
Except that you do end the world at the end of the movie. So.
Oh, that. Well.
Yeah, that. Okay, really quickly.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though, but I think, I don't know if I misunderstood what I read in this, though, but I think what I understood was that Deborah Hill, when she found out that there was another, when Halloween 3 came on, they were having another one, that she wouldn't allow it unless it didn't have Michael Myers in it. Is that true? Is that?
John and Deborah were free to do anything they wanted on the third one. That was the deal. And so they were not required, nor did they want to do a Michael Myers movie.
Okay, yeah, I think that's
We
why.
didn't even call him that.
Oh, yeah, because I think that was the only way Deborah Hill would allow. It must have been something she discussed with John Carpenter.
Yeah, they were working as a team.
Gotcha.
You from Boston, man? You from Boston?
Oh, me, I'm from Maine.
Okay. All right. You said John Carpenter. So,
John Carpenter, it did come out.
No, I got you, man. That's cool. That's cool. All right. So how do you guys, because obviously the franchise went on. And I don't, well, I'm probably putting you on the spot. But, there have been, how many, 5 after this one? Yeah, 5.
I think so.
Yeah. And obviously it was because Akkad owned the rights to it, and they continued on. Have you ever seen any of the other ones?
H2O, I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
Yeah, that's the one I saw. I have to say, I didn't really have any ambitions to see the others, because what I would read about them and then what I would surmise about them, I thought, no, maybe not.
Well, Alan, you obviously saw 4 through 6.
I have the opposite experience. I was 4, 5, 6, and then I stopped watching.
Well, Halloween 3, I think one of the classic movies. You guys, I want to say that it's, I'm sporting the colors right here. I really love it. Okay, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, one of the best, you guys, obviously.